Everybody's here. Remote Township too? Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay. Okay. Okay, good evening. We are going to go ahead and call the meeting of the City of Bloomington Township to order. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Kearns. Here. Trustee, Trustee Motney.
Here.
Trustee Dannenberger.
Here.
Trustee Becker.
Here.
Trustee Hendricks.
Here.
Trustee Ward.
Here.
Trustee Crumpler.
Here.
Trustee Millawamboy.
Here. And I understand that we have Trustee Bolin on the line. So is there a motion to allow her to attend remotely due to illness?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Ward and second by Trustee Becker.
All right. Trustee Kearns.
Yes.
Trustee Motney.
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberger.
Yes.
Trustee Becker.
Yes.
Trustee Hendricks.
Yes.
Trustee Ward.
Aye.
Trustee Crumpler.
Yes.
Trustee Millawamboy.
Yes. Okay. Donna, are you there? Trustee Bolin?
Trustee Bolin, can you try to unmute and speak to us just to confirm you're there? Okay. Okay. IT says that you are still appearing muted. All right. Well, Mayor, if you want to keep rolling, we'll see if we can troubleshoot what's going on with.
Sure. I texted her to see if she can unmute. We'll see. Okay, do we have public comment?
We received no emailed public comment, nor did anyone register to speak.
Okay, sounds good. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move.
Okay, moved by trustee Hendricks,
Second.
second by trustee Dannenberger. Are we using clickers or?
We are going to vote remotely. I can call it if it's easier for you. You can go ahead and vote. Trustee Bolin, can you hear us?
I can.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
wow.
And how would you like to vote
Um,
on the consent?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so consent agenda passes, no nays to announce. And now we're going to move on to regular agenda item number 6, consideration and action to finalize and set an ordinance for compensation for the township's elected officials, including the Township Board of Trustees, as requested by the City of Bloomington Township. So as you know, we are to set, salaries, we're responsible for setting salaries for the upcoming term for not only the township assessor, but also township supervisor and also trustees. So in front of you, you have an ordinance for those salaries. So please keep in mind as we sit here that we're not talking about the salaries of these particular individuals who are sitting in front of us, and also for trustees, but for whomever takes office in May 2025. The first section of the ordinance shows the proposed first-year salaries for the township supervisor and assessor. It contemplates a 2.5% increase for the salaries, but certainly it is open for further discussion. This was just it's a number that was carefully considered, but just to get the discussion started. And so what we also did is that, so for the first year is 2.5%, but then we also have for subsequent years, as you can see, there would be, so items, B, C, and D, to set, the salary for future years. So with that said, I think we can start with the first one, which is item, I'm looking at the wrong one here. Item 6A, and to see if there is a motion or another.
I'll move to approve 6A.
Move to approve 6A, okay. Is there a second? Okay, well, it does not appear that there is a second, so the motion fails. Is there an alternate motion then?
So first of all, I've appreciated the discussions over the last few meetings that we've had on this topic. And over the last few weeks, I know we've had the opportunity, each of us, to respectively look at other jurisdictions and to look at the other areas and what they're doing in terms of the compensation rate, but also in terms of collaborating with the other local government organizations to bring in township roles and look for opportunities for efficiency and that sort of thing. So I'm struggling with, at this time, putting in a forward-looking year-over-year cost of living adjustment on a role that I think over the last few years, we've been talking about the opportunities to maybe look at this differently and look for opportunities to explore this differently. So in that sense, it's caused me to wonder if we shouldn't keep these roles flat at where they are now, which seems to be consistent with the other roles in the other areas across Illinois. Anyway, just sharing that, but certainly open to the discussion and opinions of others.
So that's your motion to keep it flat?
To keep it flat, as
Okay.
we are with the trustees as well.
Okay. Is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay. Second, discussion?
I've gone back and forth as well about this particular item and the role. And I know last time there was some comparisons, I think, to normal, and some of the salaries that I could find were much lower than some of the ones that are being presented here. I tried to look in other areas of the state also. And seen a lot of the overlap that I think that the city does, and some of the conversations that we've attempted to have as trustees about, you know, where there could be maybe some of those increased efficiencies and such. I just would like to see some of those things maybe come back to us, and see how we can kind of expand, I would say, this role overall, and how other townships might take that on. Yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at right now, and thinking about where this salary is at this current moment is quite high, in my opinion.
Mhm. Are there other items or other discussion from anyone?
Is
I
there
would like-
discussion from us as the elected
You can
officials?
certainly, yeah, you can.
So Cody, you said you want to explore the roles of our positions. Do you understand all the positions that we do?
I understand the role of assessor, yeah, and there's been discussion around that as well, that I believe that we've had with other elected bodies as well on how that role has been working. As far as, you know, the work and the role that the township can do, I think there's a lot of opportunities that could be there. I'm not going to say, you know, here's what I want you to do, because that's where it comes into the elected office holder who really comes up with some of that. But I do feel that the trustees do play a role in some of those guiding discussions as well, especially when it comes to budgetary aspects and such, and questions that we've had and that other council members, or not council members, trustees have had.
So when you're saying you understand it as far as the work we're doing, I understand the budget, and we have kept our budget kind of low, and we haven't really explored some of the opportunity we could to do things more efficiently, because those things cost a lot of money to make it more efficient. We've been using software and people's experiences to maintain everything at a low cost. And outside of that, I don't know if we went to a package system to do the things we do, the annual rates are gonna increase our budgets probably 50% from what we're at. So we have been maintaining our efficiencies at the township level and keeping those costs low. And
Could I maybe ask Mayor or trustee? You mentioned that the 2.5% was like really considered. What was that exactly tied to? That consideration, just cost of living, or something more there
I can-
through
Yeah.
deliverables?
Yeah, and I think part of it is, I think initially you proposed it was between 2 and 3%, correct?
2.5%
Yeah.
over the average of the last 3 years of expenses.
Mhm. Yes. And I think the other thing too, that came into play, I do remember from the conversation that we had, is that, for example, for you, Steve, you know, there's always a possibility that, you know, as you're building capacity within your office, that those folks might end up leaving to go to another entity locally within the area, because that entity pays a little bit more. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Mhm.
And I have lost employees that left and came back. but we had to compensate them more to get them back to keep up the office, the work we have to do.
Could I also ask just quickly, it says for the assessor that the state stipend isn't included. What is the state stipend?
If we maintain the metrics through the Department of Revenue, that the Department of Revenue will pay the assessor a monetary bonus annually. But that has to be qualified by what we do with the assessments. They get all the sales also. They do on a global, statewide, they do all the analysis of ratio work also. So we have to make our adjustments to keep the township from getting multipliers from the county, and the county has to maintain assessments in the county in order to not get a state multiplier.
So
Okay.
what was the state bonus paid in 2023?
It's a $3,000. It's a $3,000 bonus.
It's a $3,000 bonus. So, and let me be clear in terms of my thoughts. This has absolutely nothing to do with the folks who are in this role. For me, my thoughts would be inconsistent to lay out a path of annual increases for roles where we are exploring the opportunity to create efficiencies. And you talked about software, Steve, with regard to licensing. And, we may have, additional buying power to license software differently that might provide opportunities there for some of that cost containment that would drive efficiencies.
We are researching that with the city, with some of the software the city has.
And I should add that the 2.5% is, we were talking about the first year right now. So I don't want it to seem like it's an automatic, because you've got the other 3 years where you could make a different decision.
It's my understanding that each of those years has to be determined 150 days prior to the next process, laying forward the path for the next 4 years. I may have misread that.
The next 4 years has to be determined today.
Yes.
Yeah. But we could go with
We can do it.
2.5% and then 0%.
And then 0 and then 0.
Yes. That's what I was trying to say. Other discussion? No? Okay, then,
I would like to say
oh,
something.
yeah, sorry, Donna.
No, That's all right. We're talking about base salary here, and we also have to keep in mind that there's $25,000 to $30,000 of benefit in addition. And everyone is in the same situation as far as cost of living and suffering from the effects of inflation. And I always keep that in the back of my mind whenever I'm making these kind of decisions.
Okay. And these positions, I know last time did not have this last term, right? There was a 0%?
Last 2 terms.
Last 2 terms, okay.
Could I just get a clarification? At one point, somebody said something about trying to keep the salaries of staff in a competitive way. I'm not quite sure what that has to do with what we're voting on right now, because they're not elected officials, so this wouldn't apply to them, right?
This is about the salaries of me, the
Right, but
assessor,
somebody
not
was
the staff.
saying, I thought I heard somebody say something about the rest of the staff needing to have salaries that were
Well,
competitive.
Well, we have people in our office that would come in and just like the city has employees and unions that they prepare them every year with the cost of living and those things. If you're saying that the elected official shouldn't get a cost of living, should we not give that to the employees of our staff in the building? Like the city gets those incentives?
I'm just trying to get my head
Yeah.
around what the salaries of your staff have to do with this item that we're voting on.
It has to do with if we want to keep people in office, we want to pay them a salary that they are feeling like they are being treated as their employees are. If you're setting the precedent towards an elected official not to give them anything, wouldn't that roll back to the employees?
I don't I guess that's what I'm asking is I don't understand how this has anything to do with the employees, the non-elected employees.
Some of the things that we learned when we started, they always talked about, and I can only speak for assessors. In the classwork, some of the dialogue was the elected person would make more than the staff that's working for them. Because a lot of the work done in the assessor office, the assessor himself has to do and maintain those things.
Hmm.
Like the education and the sales ratio and all that extra things have to be done by that elected person. It's not like they come in and just sit in a chair and let everybody do everything. Is that
So you're saying there's a chance that the staff could end up making more than the elected official down the line?
right? And and I'm speaking of dialogue that I've learned in
Mhm.
history, starting out. That's some of the education courses, and they talk to
Mhm.
those things.
Yeah.
Where, and this is township trustees talking in these roles too, where they said they don't want the elected official to be paid less than the staff. And sometimes they are, but 9 times out of 10, they aren't
In the township, that's not the way it is with the city.
in the
Okay.
township.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I noticed in the
Bear in
meeting-
mind, we only have about some minutes and then we have a few other items. So just want to make sure stay on time.
So I think last meeting, we talked about this and the most highly compensated employee at the township is currently paid 80.
Right. And that person came back from a different office and moved back here for that salary. And they've been back since February.
Thank you.
Okay. So I know we have a motion on the table, right? And who it was,
You have a motion from
Right.
Montney and a second from Hendricks,
Okay.
and that is to keep to keep it flat.
okay, all right.
Is this for all four? Or is it just the first one?
You're voting one at a time.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
And Donna, how would you like to vote?
Okay.
Trustee Bolin, how would you like to vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so there's just one nay to announce,
Yes.
and that's trustee Crumpler.
Okay. All right. So then we move on to the next motion then, I think, which is for the following year. Is there a motion one way or another? For year two of the next term.
So again, I just don't want to reiterate the same comments I've already made. I mean, I do feel that we should be looking at this flat. Again, absolutely no disrespect to the people in those roles, just looking at it contextually relative to other positions and generally the current state of where we are with exploring opportunities.
Okay. So there's a motion to keep it flat. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by trustee Baker. Becker. I go ahead and vote.
And trustee Bolin,
Yes.
and for trustee Milawambwe, my assumption has been that you are voting yes.
Oh,
But I
sorry.
just
No.
realized you're not on the
Yeah,
screen
I-
there.
I
So
think I'm in Mayor.
are you
mode.
voting for them
No,
to stay flat?
I'll vote no.
You're going to vote no.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just for clarification purposes on the last one, are you also voting no
Yes,
on?
yes.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So I had 2 nays to announce. That is trustee Crumpler and trustee Milawambwe.
Okay. Sorry, I was still in Mayor.
I was in council mode a little. I apologize.
Yeah.
So I think on the motion too, I think trustee Crumpler voted affirmatively.
On this last one, sorry. Thank you. All right, so on B, we have Crumpler voting yes and Milawambwe voting no. Thank you for that.
And so now we're going to item C,
C.
motion.
Motion to remain flat.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
And trustee Bolin, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
All right, trustee Milawambwe.
No.
All right, so just one no to announce. That's trustee Milawambwe.
And then year 4.
Make a motion to remain flat.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Let's vote.
All right, trustee Bolin
Yes.
and trustee Milawambwe.
No.
Just one no to announce, trustee Milawambwe.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item E, consideration action to extend the contract of Soaring Eagle Cleaning Services LLC as the Township Building Cleaning Services for calendar years 2025 and 2026 as requested by the City of Bloomington Township. Is there a motion?
I'll
to
make a
approve?
motion to approve.
Okay, motion by trustee Bolin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Becker. Go ahead and vote.
Trustee Bolin? Would you like to vote
Yes.
yes? Okay.
Yes.
Trustee Milawambwe?
Yes.
Thank you. No nays to announce.
Okay, item F, consideration action to approve the estimated fiscal year 2025 tax levy for tax year 2024 as requested by the township supervisor. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by trustee Bolin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by trustee Montney, because she was a little louder. Okay, go ahead and vote.
Trustee Bolin?
Yes.
Trustee Milawambwe?
Yes. Okay, now we have report by the elected officials. Yeah, 1 minute each.
We did have an emergency, sort of, in our office. 3 of us smelled gas in the server room, but we had NICOR out there and everything was fine, both in carbon monoxide. we evacuated for about an hour, hour and a half.
Thank you. Mr. Assessors. Scott?
So the assessments went out, the timeline for complaints to be filed with the department, the County Board of Review is November the 15th. The forms you can find on the county website. If you don't agree with the market value of your property, I suggest you go ahead and fill out that complaint form and see if you get any relief on your assessment through the Board of Review.
Okay. Commission, okay. I think at this point, we're gonna move to adjournment. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
Okay, motion by
I'll
trustee
second.
Hendry, second by trustee Ward. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, we are adjourned, but don't move. Moving right into the council meeting. 6 o'clock.
If anyone is interested in speaking
Jeez. He's slowing us down. Ready? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting of the City of Bloomington Council. If everyone could stand, if able, and for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kearns,
Here.
Councilmember Motney,
Here.
Councilmember Dannenberger,
Here.
Councilmember Becker,
Here.
Councilmember Hendricks,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler,
Here.
Mayor Millawamble.
Here. And at this point, we're gonna ask for a motion for Councilmember Bolin to participate remotely due to illness.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by
Second.
Councilmember Becker, second by Councilmember Ward.
All right, Councilmember Kearns.
Yes.
Councilmember Motney,
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Bolin, are you there?
I am here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We are going to move to recognition and appointments, and starting with item 5A, presentation of the City of Bloomington Police Department Police Officer Commission certificates to Officers Matthew Tribley, okay, sorry, Officer Kyle Hosh, and Officer Spencer Bush upon completion of their probationary period as requested by the Police Department. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Symington.
Good evening. Not sure if can you hear me? Okay,
Mhm.
very good. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council, elected officials. We appreciate this opportunity to recognize 3 of our new officers who have completed their probation. As the chief of police with the Bloomington Police Department, I am honored. I know it's a privilege to serve, and it's actually even that much better when you know you have a team of officers who are dedicated, ready to run towards danger when others call on us to show up and serve, and they do a remarkable job day in and day out. I will start with Officer Matt Tribley. He was hired on August 8th, 2022. He attended Heartland Community College and Endicott College. He served 5 years in the Marine Corps, which included serving with the Marine Corps Security Battalion in Kings Bay, Georgia, as a waterfront non-commissioned officer, and the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines Infantry Unit with Kilo Company. Officer Tribley earned an honorable discharge at the rank of sergeant. He has an amazing 9-year-old daughter named Mav. Prior to joining the Bloomington Police Department, Officer Tribley worked at State Farm as an armed behavior detection officer. He founded and is the president of Outdoor Veterans, a nonprofit 501c3. Their mission is to provide veterans and first responders with the opportunity to engage in outdoor activities that promote physical and mental well-being, foster a sense of camaraderie, and help them rediscover their purpose. Outside of work, Officer Tribley enjoys lifting weights, hunting, fishing, should I say it? Ice hockey, and camping. He helps with other local nonprofits focused on mental health and physical well-being. Most importantly, he loves working in the outdoors with his daughter, and he also serves on the department's honor guard. While working with the Bloomington Police Department, he has received a Certificate of Appreciation Award in recognition of commendable DUI enforcement from the Alliance of Intoxicated Motorists. He ranked 3rd in DUI arrests last year and 8th in traffic stops. Congratulations, Officer Tribley, on completing your probation period. Next, we'll have Officer Hosh. He's joined today by his wife, Anita. He has 2 daughters, Quinn and Ava, correct? I'm sorry, Ellie and Ava, and then also a son named Quinn. Officer Hosh joined the Bloomington Police Department on January 3rd, 2023. He graduated from Dwight High School in Dwight, Illinois, and attended college at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. Prior to joining the Bloomington Police Department, he served in the Navy for 6.5 years. He was a helicopter door gunner and combat search and rescue crewman. He deployed overseas on 2 occasions. Gentlemen, thank you both for your service. Outside of work, Officer Hosh enjoys family time, mountain biking, and shooting. I think he outshot the chief on the range, so congratulations, Kyle. Thanks. Next, we'll have Officer Spencer Bush. He was hired March 6th of 2023 and is married to his beautiful wife who joins him here tonight, Grace, and their 2-year-old son named Carson. Spencer attended Prairie Central High School and went on to Heartland Community College and attended Illinois State University. Prior to working at the Bloomington Police Department, Spencer was employed by the Pontiac Police Department as an officer for 2.5 years. In his off time, he enjoys spending time with his family. Officer Bush, congratulations on receiving your commission. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to bring some of our talent before you, and thank you for your ongoing support of the Bloomington Police Department. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your service. The next item is a presentation of the winners of the 2024 City of Bloomington Beautification Awards as requested by the Citizens Beautification Committee. And I believe, okay, Jeff, okay, awesome. Well, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Mwambe, City Manager Jurgens, and member of the council. Thanks for setting some time aside for the Beautification Committee. I just wanted a little shout out and thank you to the Beautification Committee. Very hardworking group. They're dedicated. They are constantly looking for improvements to the city, ways to beautify the city, whether that's an idea for downtown or to help us with the design in a park. One of their big projects they do is our Arbor Day ceremony at a local school, local elementary school. And it's always a really good time to see the kids' reaction when they get to help plant a tree. And they've been instrumental in that. One of their other big projects is the Beautification Awards. The Citizens Beautification Committee is instrumental in that program. They hand out the nominations, they collect the nominations, then they go review, drive by, visit all the houses, and then it comes to this point in time where they get to hand out the awards. I would like to introduce Gina Lavazza as the chairman of the board, and she can introduce her crew, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council people for having us here tonight. It's always an exciting time of year to give out our beautification awards. It's a fun process to go around and see. There's so many beautiful properties in Bloomington, so it's really hard to narrow it down, but we are happy to announce our winners tonight. Before I do so, I do want to acknowledge our committee. I'm not sure if everyone is here. I'm just going to go through our committee members' names. I know I did see Eldon Hobb is here, if he wants to wave or stand up there. Deborah Johnson, I don't know if she's here. I didn't see her. Zola Tyus is there. Fred Marling, don't believe he's here. Johnny Painter. Jennifer Aurora is not here. Chris Kraft, I don't believe she's here. Dan Freeberg, co-chair, it's right here. And then Michaela Kent. So that makes up the beautification committee. Now to get to the exciting part, and we will go through the slides. We have pictures of each property and then call up the winners and we will give them a certificate. And then they're gonna also get a stone, like a garden stone that's engraved, which will be delivered to them later this week. So our first one is Park View Inn for our business, because we have 2 businesses and 5 residents. Park View Inn. Thank you. If you wonder. And then- Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then that's the stone that they'll be getting. Okay, our second business is Red Raccoon Games for this amazing mural. If they can- Oops, sorry. Okay, now we're gonna move on to our residences. So we have, okay. So we have, I think this one, 1007 South Morris is the Shepherds. We have the Shepherds here, yes. Okay, and okay, which one? Where 501 East Olive is Julia Sutherland. Is Julia here? Oh, she may not be here, so we will deliver the stone to her house and her certificates. Okay, and so we have 1311 West Seminary, which is a Mary Anderson, and this is in loving memory of her husband Ronald Anderson. So the stone will have in loving memory. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then we have Carrington Lane, which is Jeff and Melissa Schnacky, if I'm saying it correctly. I hope. Yay! Thank you. Thank you for coming. See, 1009 Morris are the Heisers are at 1009 Morris. Harlan and Jane Heiser. Congratulations. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, and I believe, is that it? And that is it. So thank you so much for your time and having us here tonight to present the awards to these beautiful properties. And thank you to all the citizens of Bloomington for making it such a beautiful city.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gina. And thank you to the committee as well for all the wonderful work that you've done and these not only the residences, but the businesses are also doing a fantastic job. And I think that's what makes Bloomington a beautiful place to live. I love the mural, on Main Street. That's a very nice addition. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. And next we have a recognition of board and commission reappointments.
We were recognizing Angelique Rocky to the Cultural Commission and William Bennett to the PSARB, the Public Safety and Community Relations Board. These are reappointments. Thank you for your service.
Okay. Thank you. And next we have public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We received no emailed public comment, but we do have 3 people registered to speak. And after your statement, we'll start with Serena Fish and then to follow Diane Landry.
Okay. Public comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It is also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes, and the city and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time ceased.
Good evening. My name is Serena Fish. I'm administrator for West Side Neighbors. I'm on Miller Park Neighbors, and I'm a member of the PSCRB Review Board. I'd like to bring attention to the consent agenda. Item 0 on a special use permit for a school public in the D2 downtown transitional district for the property located at 301 West Washington Street. In case no one knows, that is the Pantograph building. I and many other downtown people attended meetings, and we were presented with Lifelong, and the school they were talking about at that point is an alternative school. It is not a regular school. They also, if they are going to buy the building, we're talking about numerous entities, mental health, free this, free that, all the above. As a, don't laugh at me because you're not a downtown person. We have had problems with the people at the alternative school. We've had problems with them coming through stealing. We already have numerous problems downtown, and this is another entity where you're going to collect in one building numerous problems. So I would like for you to take it off and review what all they're planning on putting on the building, because the meetings we went to was much more than just that. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
All right, next up, we have Diane Landry, and then to follow Scott Steinling.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Diane Landry. I live at 917 West Olive Street. My friend Michelle lives at 902 West Olive Street, next to a garage. We are very strong human rights advocates. This is her fence, which she owns. The city of, she had this message on the fence, and the city of Bloomington made her take it off and put this little sign on here. Across the street is this vulgarity. I've contacted the city twice. They just do not seem to make human rights a priority. What I would like to do is we want permission to put our message back on her fence, and we would like the city of Bloomington to pay to repaint it. That's all I need.
Thank you. Next.
Lastly, we have Scott Steinling.
Scott Steinling, Ward 5. My great big concern is the fact that the streets and the sidewalks are, sidewalks are a tripping hazard. The streets are to the point where if somebody would drive down there, they got to be very careful or they'll do damage to their car. I tell you, the storm drain in front of the house that I'm in is sunken so low that when they need cleaned out, I've got to call the city and let them come out and clean them out, because I've been preaching this, that the inlets have to be raised first or the street has to be laid, but you want that inlet up. You don't want it sunken down. And so consequently, they're all that way around me. And as you come into Bloomington and they say, welcome to Bloomington, home of the potholes, rotten roads, high taxes, crooked politicians, enter at your own risk. I did over almost $1,000 worth of damage to a car that I no longer have, but simply from hitting the lousy potholes in this town. And I would hope that it would be addressed. Thank you.
There's no further public comment.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to item number 7, and I know you have something to announce, right, Madam Clerk? Seven?
Oh, yeah, we were just going to point out that the item that is listed under public hearing 7A, it's the public hearing on an annexation agreement with Ruth LLC. That item will actually be held under public hearings on December 9th. So postponed to the December 9th, 6 p.m. meeting, and they will also be renoticing that. So anyone who receives something in the mail will get notice. Also, it was just planned for this meeting and we wanted to call attention to it. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, moved by Councilmember Hendricks and second by Councilmember Ward. Sorry. You're late. Okay, do we vote electronically?
And Councilmember Bolin, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the item passes. There are no nays to announce. And now we're going to move on to the regular agenda. Item 9A, consideration and action on a resolution approving an engagement agreement with Mesero Financial for municipal bond advisory services related to the city's potential borrowing needs as requested by the Finance Department. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jurgens.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, going to ask Finance Director Scott Rathbun to walk us through this as we prepare for potential bonding needs that we may have in the future. We certainly know we're likely to have some related to the water improvements that we're planning and potentially some others. So we utilize the services of other financial advisors as we look for that. But as this council has discussed in the past, also going to provide an overview of our current bond debt tonight and provide some more details on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Rathbun.
Thank you, City Manager Jurgens, Council, Mayor. Jeff set it up perfectly. You know, tonight we really have an agenda item related to engaging a financial advisor we've been utilizing for quite some time, primarily related to the pending water capital improvement plan. Everyone is aware of, $400 million for the next 20 years, but we're looking at close to $140 million over the next 5 years. Doing debt financing is tremendously complex. We have to have a financial advisor who acts as a fiduciary and bond counsel because of the tax exempt status of the bonds and all the compliance and documentation that goes into it. But tonight, we thought with that agenda item, we take an opportunity to do a debt overview. It's been requested. There's a lot of resources available related to our debt. We could spend a lot of time kind of digging into each of the line items, but we'll give an overview tonight and talk about those resources, kind of set up where we are compared to our peers, but that's going to change related to this water capital improvement plan, and that's okay. I kind of want to start off by saying, debt is not bad. We utilize debt to fund activities that we need now, and it also kind of spreads the payment for that asset kind of over the future generations. They're going to be enjoying that asset. So there's some kind of quality related to debt too, if you want to look at it that way. That might be a reach, but that's one of the aspects that I look at it from. Next slide, please. So kind of starting off, before we jump into the numbers, highlighting where the community can find information. We're going to be using excerpts or versions of some exhibits that are published online. So right now, our 24 budget is published today. I'm getting ahead of myself. I was going to bring that up to Financial Director's report, but it wasn't ready when I was completing this presentation. So we're going to utilize some exhibits from our 23 audit and some information from our FY25 budget. There's a lot of details related to each of our issuances, the types of debt, et cetera. We've got some information on this exhibit related to the pages, but I'll highlight, that in the audit is kind of an intimidating document, but there's notes to the financial statements and the statistical section. And the notes are like more narrative related. It describes the debt, the origins of it. The statistical section gives a lot of ratios. The statistical section, I'll kind of recommend people look at that. It gives a lot of information about service calls for police, et cetera. And then the annual budget book, we have a complete section related to our bond debt. The narrative, issue descriptions, history schedules, peer comparisons, et cetera. All that's located on the city's website, on the finance page, easy to find. It's a good resource if anybody really wants to dig in. Next slide, please. So this slide's a little complicated, but the box is an excerpt from a table that's in the audit. So I want to describe that and then move quickly to the table that's below that. So governmental activities and business activities, those are two categories that the auditors use, all municipalities use. In general, business activities are, generally speaking, your enterprise funds, and then the governmental activities is primarily, not solely, the general fund. So you've got your debt by type kind of lined out between those two activities, and the total primary government debt of close to $80 million. But what I've created a table below that groups those together and does a little explanation. So our general obligation bonds. So general obligation bonds, those are bonds that are backed by the full taxing authority of the municipality. You know, we're at $54 million. You can see that is 68% of our total debt load. When I'm talking about debt tonight, I'm not talking about the pension debt or anything. This is really what we've borrowed to finance our activities and capital improvement plans. Loan payable is primarily IEPA loans, state revolving loans related to sewer and stormwater activities. So almost $11 million. And this is as of the end of FY23. So this is not future looking. This is a snapshot in time. So this is the principal plus accrued interest at that time. That'll become important here in the next slide. Capital lease payable. This is coming down rapidly. The 24 number is going to be lower. Primarily equipment leases. We've been paying cash for most of our equipment, especially in the general fund over the last couple of years. And then there's another IEPA loan that's related to an IGA with Benward that the auditor split that out into another category, and that's about 5%. So again, 68% of our debt is related to bonds, and so that's what we're really going to be focusing on tonight as far as the summary goes. Next slide, please. This is a table that's an exhibit in our FY25 budget book. We put this in every budget book every year. This happens to be on page 68 of book number 2. This shows our bond by issue. And then at the bottom, where it says use of funds, you can see what those funds were utilized for. So, you know, we've got the arena, we've got 2 categories for that. I'll come back to that in a second. Ice Center, all the way out, going out to the right to the most recent bond we issued in 2022 was for O'Neill Pool and the Bloomington Public Library. Now, this table includes interest in the future too. So these are total debt payments. That's why the total down to the bottom right is 61.7 million versus the 54 million we just highlighted in the previous exhibit from the audit, which is a snapshot in time. So there's a note at the bottom. We set aside funds 1 year in advance. So the note says, I'm going to read it, debt service is funded 1 year in advance, therefore funding for debt service payments seen above accounted for in the previous fiscal year. For example, the funding for the FY25 payments were set aside in FY 2024. That's a best practice, and sometimes bond covenants actually require that. The arena, there's 2 categories for that. We've refinanced the arena debt twice. The original issue was in 2004, and then it was refinanced in 2011 and another in 2014. I'm going to do a comment. Councilmember Montney, she's asked me about the total that we've spent to date on the arena. I'm having a little trouble getting that number because of those refinances. I need to work with our financial advisor, so I don't have that number tonight, but I will be getting that number. There's some documentation that's just not on our network now. So I will be getting that. But the arena, because there was a management company involved, it originally was completely 100% taxable bonds, and it was split between tax exempt and taxable based on some rationale from our bond counsel. And we're actually going through a bit of a review now to see if we can combine those, if we could reissue those bonds in all tax exempt, because a tax exempt bond is cheaper from an interest rate standpoint for a municipality. But we do have the hockey relationship. So if there's private entities, and depending on the nature of the relationship, it can kind of dictate whether or not it qualifies for complete tax exempt financing. So that's being reviewed with bond counsel. The last thing I wanted to say, I mean, I don't need to go through this entire schedule. We do periodic reviews with our financial advisor. I mean, tonight's agenda item is about our financial advisor, where we review refunding opportunities. So most of these bonds are in the 3 to 4% range. The The pool and library, right when we did that, interest rates jumped up. So there's an average because there's like a per year rate that's applied. But the average for the pool and the library is 4.2%. But at least once a year, maybe more often if rates are changing rapidly, we'll sit down with the financial advisor, Mesero, and look through a refunding opportunity to see if we could save money by refunding the bonds at a lower interest rate. There's cutoffs. I can't remember the exact threshold we use because doing bond financing, because it is so technical, it is expensive too. The financial advisor has a fiduciary obligation to us, so they have risk. The bond counsel has risk related to fiduciary responsibility. My understanding, there's a lot of legal activity related to fiduciary responsibilities in that arena. So next slide, please. Moving here. This is another excerpt of a table from our budget book. So this shows our peers. It's a peer comparison, but this is where it's not completely representative of how you're doing, but it does give some perspective because there's a lot of debt we just saw besides GO bond debt. But from this perspective, you can see that the Bloomington at this point in time, is $689 per capita. So again, this isn't completely representative because we're going to be adding a lot of debt related to the water capital improvement plan. So our debt per capita is going to go up. But we have the revenues pending for the rate increases to support that debt service. And that's really what's important to the rating agencies when they do your review. And from my perspective, the rating agencies, they have more expertise on this than I do. That's the financial advisors. But if we're falling into the guidelines related to the rating agencies on our debt to revenue ratios, then we're managing our financials appropriately. So this information is from the fiscal 2023. You can see derived from municipal audits. There's a couple of notes down at the bottom. Amounts are year-end payable balance. So our 54 million, this ties to the audit exhibit. We just went through a couple slides before. Springfield, I wanted to highlight, it has $74 million in water revenue bonds. So that's not included in here. Part of what we've already done with Mesero and our bond counsel and Moody's is reviewed whether or not we wanted to go to the revenue bond route. So revenue bond, you have to set up a separate entity. The covenants can be much more restrictive related to how much reserves you have to keep set aside. It's costs more to set up. And Moody's said that it's still, even if it's set aside because it's a separate entity, it's still going to be included in your overall ratings review for your municipality. So there's no leverage there either. And my understanding too is that the rate that you'll have to pay, because it is kind of separate from the full taxing authority of the city, is just that you would pay more for it as well. But I wanted to highlight that Springfield decided to use revenue bonds, so 74 million is not included in their total. It would put them up to 132 million, and that'd be about almost $1,200 per capita. And then the Decatur values is just highlighting that we had to use their 2022, their 2023 audit is not published yet. So again, this just added perspective for us, but these numbers will change over time, and also highlighting what's available in our documentation that's available for the community. Next slide, please. And then specific for tonight, the agenda item, our engagement with Mesero Financial. I've indicated, they've already put in a lot of time advising us on the revenue bond situation, looking over our projections. Myself and Ed Andrews and Chris Tomerlin and several people, we've created a 20-year projection for the capital improvement plan, projecting the revenue growth and layering in the debt service to see what we can support each year related to capital improvements. Mesero has reviewed that. We've discussed it with Moody's. And so they've put in a lot of time, and we need the expertise, and that's what we're here for tonight specifically. So the items here, I don't need to read them all, but November 27, 2023, the Water Capital Improvement Plan was approved. So, we're looking at almost $140 million in borrowing over the next 5 years related to that. We purchased the Owens Nursery for $5.4 million. There's potential needs for fleet building there. We're constantly looking at refunding opportunities. And so with Mesero and all these pending larger issuances, I discussed with them, putting together an engagement where they would tier their fee structure so that it would kind of acknowledge, that we're committed to using them. We're gonna have larger issuances, so it comes down as the issuances go up. So we've used them some 2013. The finance department and city, we desire continuity for the material pending borrowing needs and their expertise. I've already mentioned this, they provide pro forma. Moody's is included in the pending water CI plan and its upgrade review in November 2023. So we should be get there. And then I've kind of referenced this. Ratings criteria vary. So the per capita, that's really not a big driving factor when Moody's or other rating agencies are looking at you. But much emphasis is placed on the revenue to debt ratios. And this water CIP funded by rating is projected to stay within those guidelines. Next slide, please. So those guidelines. So this exhibit has been provided by Mesro over the years. It shows our credit ratings, where we are, the impact that it has on our borrowing ability. So this is another example of the expertise and the effort and the assistance that Mesro provides. They've been instrumental in our discussions with the rating agencies and maintaining those relationships. And my perspective, my intent, we maintain those relationships. We can almost utilize the ratings agencies as I shouldn't, almost not advisors, but, use their guidelines, their input to help us manage our financials more appropriately and make better financial decisions. I'll mention that Standard & Poor's has dropped off. The column is still in there, but sometimes the ratings are requested on a per issuance basis. And the issue that we requested a Standard & Poor's rating on many years ago has now been paid off, so it's kind of dropped off. So basically our rating has expired with them. And we've discussed the Fitch rating, how it came down a month ago, but our Moody's went up last November. We're highest AA with Moody's. Next slide, please. And to wrap, Mesro, I've mentioned this, Mesro has put together a very competitive rate structure, effective rates below prior issuances. I did a lot of review on those issuance costs, especially when I first started working for the city. They know our history, they know our financial structure, and they bring excellent expertise and service to the city, and therefore I recommend the engagement with them be approved. And in the parentheses, just highlighting to the community, this does not authorize any borrowing at this time. This is just an engagement with our financial advisor related to future potential borrowings or refundings and their assistance and the cost structure related to that. So at this point, I'll take any questions.
Questions?
On average, what is our annual spend with Mesro?
Well, it can vary because they only charge us when we do an issuance. So
So we just did one, right, for the library and the full, can you even just ballpark?
I think it was for that one, somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm not seeing any other lights, so we can go ahead and vote. Oh, is there a motion? Sorry.
I'll move approval.
Okay, Councilmember Boone and Councilmember Crumpler, Ward and Crumpler.
Councilmember Bolin, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the item passes. There are no nays to announce, and we're gonna move on to the Finance Director's report. Jeff, do you have any comments, Brian?
No, this is going to be Director Rathbun's show tonight, so turn it right back over to him.
Going into budget season, so it's set for that. So September 30th financial summary. Sound like a broken record, but 5 months, 42% of the year is completed. However, I like to reference sales taxes. We only have 3 months of sales taxes, so it's still somewhat early in the year. We can't do projections. We're not updating those. We usually wait until we're at least 6 months in before we start actually updating projections. So the projected year end is going to assume we're going to hit budget, or if it's been revised, with budget amendments at this point. So next slide, please. Major tax revenue categories. Highlighting, I think, the same ones as we highlighted last month. So home rule is showing $138,000 negative year-to-date variance. That's one of the categories we budget month to month with some seasonality. The prior year, this related month had a very high sales, had very high sales activity. So we adjusted our budget seasonality for that. And so we were off on that one, but we have gotten the current month's home rule sales tax from the state already. We've had a rebound in that category, I think about 50,000. So this could be an issue with budget timing, but it kind of indicates, and if you look at state sales tax where we're $5,000 variance, and then, over to the right, prior year to date, you can see we're $60,000 under for home rule and $66,000 over on state, that we're kind of leveling off on sales tax revenue. So we took them way up. You can see the far right, 1.8 million, took the budget up for home rule from prior year, 3 million for state sales tax. So, going into FY26, there won't be large incremental increases there. So, we're watching that home rule number, but hopefully that it rebounds. Income tax, associating that with personal property replacement tax. I've mentioned this before, the state is doing a clawback related to replacement tax. They overpaid it over some prior years. Some of that is going into the local government distributive fund, which is helping income tax, but you can see it's not a complete offset. IML and the Department of Revenue do projections on income tax and PPRT, so we're going to be watching those closely. PPRT is definitely on our watch list. Next year, we will be taking that budget down. Not sure how much yet, but it's just not going to rebound to prior year levels because those were included overpayments. Local motor fuel tax. It's been running under all year. We had another month of being $30,000 under budget for the month. So that one's definitely on the watch list. We'll have to start looking at the individual stations to see if it's related to construction, et cetera, on the west side, or if we're just kind of losing some business to, the new Loves on the north side of town. So I'll try to get some more details on that one. But as of now, that one's coming down about $30,000 a month. Food and beverage, down a bit year to date, but we took that budget up $900,000 over the prior year. So $11,000 out of a $6 million budget. That to me that's still on budget. That's doing well. People in town like to go out to eat. And then hotel motel, still solid, $123,000 over year to date. I'm sure they've increased their prices at the hotels and motels in town just due to the demand. And so we're realizing that in additional revenue. So, right now, just a couple of things that we're watching. Otherwise, things are, trending pretty appropriately for this time. Next slide, please. No material changes for year-to-date revenues. I've been spending time talking about, the layout of the exhibit, the revised budget, and how that includes $14.7 million in use of reserves. We do not include that in the projected year end. So the total projected revenues for year end is 134 million. So that's the way we budget, but that's not going to be realized revenues. And so that's a use of reserves, and that means it's basically a planned loss for the year. Next slide, please. Expenses for the general fund. Salaries and benefits, same comment as last month. It's a slightly ahead of the annualized trend of 5 divided by 12 is 42%. It's at 45%. Really related mostly due to seasonality, with the pools and parks activity that's in the summer. So that's pretty typical as far as that trending. Everything else is on schedule for now. We've got the $49.8 million projected year end reserve balance, and then that $14+ million use of reserve. So we're looking at, all things being held equal, the $35.76 million year end reserves, but that's just with everything coming in perfectly to budget. Next slide, please. I'll go through this quickly because we're going to highlight water tonight. Just the revenue trend, charges for services, 42% is where we are year to date. You can see everything's doing well. Golf is just killing it. They had another great month from my understanding. I haven't looked at the monthly detail, but you had some information related to golf. It's more popular now, et cetera. So the rounds are way up over a few years ago, and that's doing very well. Next slide, please. Okay. Water, the water fund is our highlighted enterprise fund for the evening. So, this is somewhat of a transition year. This is the first of the 3 water rate increases, focusing on the revised budget column. I'll go down at first. Intergovernmental revenue, you can see out to the right, we categorize things sometimes by their origins, but that's mostly IEPA borrowing. Over 4 million of that is related to IEPA borrowing. And then in miscellaneous revenue, you have $11.7 million related to bond borrowing. So that's part of our capital improvement, the Mesro arrangement. We're focusing on what are we going to borrow for in this year? Are we going to borrow for just this year or the next year too? So we're kind of looking at rates, and that's one of the needs for an entity like Mesro. But charges for services, $20.7 million. In FY24, that was 15.9 million. So, we've got, the 33% increase. And then, just doing the math, the revenues will go up by $6.8 million for FY26, about $9 million for 2027. So you're looking at, $37 million in just approximate charges for services revenue related to the rate increase to help fund the capital improvement plan. Next slide, please. So for this year, for expenditures, Water has planned about $19 million in capital expenditures. So how are they paying for that? Well, the borrowing that we just discussed, the use of reserves. Typically, when I run through an enterprise fund, I like to talk about what's its operating picture look like. So if you take its revenue of $42.4 million almost, and you take out the borrowing, you're at about $22 million in just straight revenue. And then the operating expense, if you take the $42.4 million in operating expense and you take out $19 million roughly in projects, and then, about $600,000 in debt service, the principal expense and interest expense, you get about $23 million. So this year, the operating position of the water fund was actually at a deficit, and was last year too. So, we kind of hit that point where we hadn't done the rate increases and operating expenses started exceeding the revenues for the water fund. Now, the information I just provided about those kind of like large increases, $6.8 million in revenue next year, $9 million the next year, because it compounds 33% increases, we're going to offset that in a hurry. So, part of our 20-year projection was taking, the current year, we want to get going on the infrastructure projects. I'm talking for our water director here, but get moving on those. What can we borrow with debt service to come, knowing we have those revenues that are already been approved by council to accommodate that debt service, and how can we time out those capital improvement projects? So again, the operating picture for water, if you take out borrowing for revenue and capital expenditures and debt service for expenditures, it's about a $500,000 to $1 million loss, but that's going to correct itself in a hurry. The water fund, there's a lot of emphasis on it right now. We've got getting the right advisors in place. The water department's doing a great job, and there's just a lot of attention being paid to it. I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I'm just starting to talk in circles there. So next slide, please. Okay. Other finance news. I mentioned this during the debt overview, but the FY24 audit is complete. It's actually officially dated October 23rd. That's when the auditor signed off on it. It got published today online. There will be an email going out to council with the links to the audit and the pension fund audits. No findings. So, good news there. A strong audit demonstrates to the community and investors, that our financials are correct, materially correct, and gives people confidence, in what we're presenting, is being reviewed and acknowledged as being right. So again, a lot of information available online. Go to the finance department for the budget, for the audit. There's a lot of great information. We have the kind of like the budget 101 tutorial there, et cetera. And that is it. I'll pause for questions.
Questions from council? Okay, seems like everything was crystal clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna go to City Manager Jurgens for City Manager's discussion.
Thank you very much. And if you can pull my report up and go to the next slide. Last Thursday, we had another group meeting where we get a lot of local service providers, the town, the county, other units of local government together and talk about the homelessness issue in our community. We had what I thought was a positive meeting. I feel like I always learn something new at these meetings. One of the aha moments for me as we were talking with the different service providers and trying to figure out who ultimately is responsible for the homelessness issue in our community and addressing it. And, you get fingers pointing sometimes in every different direction. The city obviously does not provide shelter services. We don't provide mental health services or substance abuse. We support, different agencies, and we try to be there and help, lower silos, but who ultimately is. And one of the individuals from the continuum of care, Liam Wheeler, I thought said it very well. And he took that and he said, it's really not on any one of us or any one of the entities in this room. This is really a community issue. And we only really address this effectively when we do it as a community. And I think that it was so well said. And I'm proud to have the city there helping to bring those different entities together so we can really approach it as an entity, and appreciate the support of the council and the others as we do that. But I will say we have to continue to address it. Even though the tent encampment is no longer on the Eastview parking lot, we still have encampments throughout the community. It is not a good situation for those experiencing homelessness. And so we need to stay on it and really try and get a better solution for the community. Next slide. Also happy to report last week, we did an on-site training day for our continuous improvement initiative. And, some of our staff members were afraid this was going to be a day-long exercise where they sat and had to watch a PowerPoint and listen to theoretical different ideas about how to improve processes. And it wasn't that at all. It was hands-on training. And we had the directors, a lot of senior staff working together, and you can see in some of the pictures, it was really impactful. And I think what we're starting to see here is a little fire that's starting with regard to continuous improvement within the city, and it's spreading quickly. We're talking about it at all of our staff meetings. We're talking about it within our departments. And the employees are really excited to figure out how they can do things better, how they can be more impactful, how they can help save resources for the city. So very excited, continue to be very excited about this initiative. And there are a number of projects that we're working on and we'll be talking more about later. Next slide. Just a reminder that Halloween is this Thursday. Trick or treat hours for the city are 5 to 8 p.m. Last weekend, last Friday night, they had the downtown trick or treat, which is always a popular event. They actually ran out of bags. I think we had over 1,500 kids in the downtown area. You can, lots of lines everywhere, but it was a great event and really excited and appreciative of our economic and community development department for all they did to help support that and put that on. We had employees from all over the city volunteering, helping with traffic and all kinds of things with that event. So we'll really appreciate all their effort. And then finally, in addition, on the next slide, we had a huge weekend with our arts and entertainment department. Billy and I were talking to Anthony Nelson, our arts and entertainment director, and he said in retrospect, maybe for all of his employees, maybe they should not have booked this many events this last weekend, but 3 events at the BCPA, 3 events at the arena had, nearly 7,400, over 7,400 people in the downtown at various times for these events. And, in my mind, the most unique is the Taylor Swift tribute concert, which was a complete sellout at the BCPA. And my understanding was just a awesome time to bring your maybe young kid and have a great experience like that. So really appreciate the arts and entertainment department. And it's more than just Anthony. It's all of those people, the ushers, the people taking tickets, serving food, a lot of work that they did this weekend. And so hopefully they're going to have a Sunday off this coming Sunday, but appreciate all of them. And that's all I have.
Taylor Swift was here?
If you were 3 years old, she was definitely here.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Great job by our staff. Council, any comments? No? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Hendricks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all right, second by Councilmember Dannenberger. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, we're